I think uh, I think being chartered accountants, we have always been very pro and always for setting up systems, processes that are created to scale that will help any organization, not just for the size they are, but how that can continue to help the organization throughout their life cycle. And I think back in 2019, we realized that while we're doing this intensive work of working with nonprofits and helping them build their finance function, put systems in place, processes in place, we are still not enough to really help the sector as a whole. And we then sort of brainstormed and we came up with this idea that maybe we should help with technology adoption in financial management, like how all most for-profit businesses, large businesses, small businesses use a system to track finances, use a system to process finances, track their budgets, and so on. And it's done in an integrated way, right? Like as you move forward, there are different departments working on different things. How does everything come together so that there's more efficient decision making and so on? And so we decided to, sort of create this platform called ERP for Impact. And I think 2020 March is when we sort of launched, and that was when our first user got onboarded. And I think it's been a great journey for us, the one where we have sort of built the system with the sector. And we very strongly believe in creating this for the sector and not like a solution that is copy pasted from somewhere saying, okay, you can use this. And I think that has been one of our most distinguishing factors and success factors as well. Because today also you will see that, um, the systems, the processes, the compliance, everything that we've thought about, right? Like is ground up made only for nonprofit organizations. And I think we are looking forward to this session, and every session is a learning for us. So thank you all for being here. I will go ahead and share my screen, and then we can sort of begin. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and then we can take them up. We will go ahead and take them up. Uh, I think that's how we can keep the flow of everything at the moment. Right. Everybody can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, this will be, okay, great. So, as I introduced this session, leveraging technology for financial management, I think we are going to keep this less about what we have built, but talk more about how you can think of a solution for your organization, irrespective of what we have built. Of course, we will see a peek into what we have built, how it functions. We will do that at the end. But I think our agenda today is to make sure that you as an organization, you as an individual, when you are thinking about how do I solve this for my organization, what you can take away from it. So we'll cover like, what current practices are, what the common challenges organizations face are, how you can look at system thinking, what your roadmap should be when you're thinking about technology, especially for financial management, right? What are the features you should look for in a technology solution? What challenges come with technology adoption? How do you choose the right solution? Then we will come to ERP for impact, which is, what we have built. We will see if we have time for a case study. We will look at a small case study, or we will, sort of try to skip it, and depends on how much time we have. And then we'll sort of open for a larger discussion and so on. So sort of beginning with, the current financial practices. If in the chat box, you can all sort of type like, when I'm talking about the first thing, tools, all like how many of you use multiple disconnected tools for financial management. So you will have Tally, you will have Excel, you will have Google Sheets. Just type one. If you also use multiple systems and not just one system today to manage your books of accounts, your budgets, your donor reports, your approvals, your bank, your banking file that gets created for upload. Type one in the chat box if you you know.
Thanks.
Yes, Manju, yes.
I think over the years we've understood that we are using certain tools and techniques, but it's interesting to know, right, to run the organization, how many tools at this point are we using? And as we can see, multiple tools used for various objects that we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like today we are all using that. The next one being, record keeping. How many of you have heavy reliance on still on papers, paper vouchers, printed receipts, etc.? Type two in the chat box if you're still using, physical medium and a little bit of medium, e-medium to, do everything. Yeah, one, two, three, four, five, six. Absolutely. So many of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you feel like we should all be going E and moving away from physical paperwork
Yeah.
at some point?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And I know for the third question that we're gonna ask, and if you can type in three, that as on today, like it takes several days, sometimes weeks to close, the month-end financials. And we say month-end because it's something regularly that we're doing it, but it's not something that we can see a system and get the answers. So it takes several days. If it does, it takes several days. If you can put in three in the chat box for it, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think so many times, at least when we would get into an organization,
Yeah.
you're trying to close 1 month and you're already at the close of the next month, right? And you're like, oh, we just finished this exercise, we have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for this engagement here.
How many of you, when it comes to creating donor reports, right, like have fragmented and inconsistent reports? Like, so you'll have a program team that is tracking the spend separately. You'll have a fundraising team that is sort of tracking the, thing differently. You'll have um, the finance team tracking things differently. So how many of you have fragmented reports, and whenever you try to reconcile, you'll always get a different answer that, oh, according to me, the utilization is X, according to me, the utilization is Y. And, everybody has different and matching figures. So type four, if, that is how you in the organization are facing that challenge of reporting. Type four, if that is what you are facing, but, you have fragmented and inconsistent reports across the organization. No, it's difficult to have everybody on the same page or looking at the same report. Yeah. And the last one is compliance. That how many of you struggle with, juggling so many different compliances when it comes to FCRA? What is the foreign source? Is this donor's money going to go into the local bank account, foreign bank account? Then creating the 10BD, sending out the 10BEs, figuring out how many of them are substantial contributors, sending out ATG receipts, and at the time of the audit, figuring out, how many sort of, money have we utilized at five. Jaspreet, Saurabh, Karthik. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can see that, so many of us, like I think we have a total of about 86 people here. I'm assuming 80 are, participants. And I can see that at least everybody here is facing some or the other issue or almost all issues over here. And I think the fact that we are all here today says that, we want to solve this problem and figure out what that is. So I think if I was to summarize what our common challenges are, right? Like one is everything is manual, time consuming. There is lack of real-time visibility. So if you wanted to take a decision today that, can I go ahead and do this spend? Can I go ahead and do this L&D program or hire this person? Or, do I have enough money from the donor to do something? You always have to go back to reports. And, because those reports are so old, you have to still go back and ask the finance team, like, can we do this? Can we not do that? We also discussed how that when it comes to reporting, you have duplicate data everywhere. You have each team maintaining separate reports for their accounts. And again, non-standard donor reports. Like every donor comes with a separate format. Every time you sign a new sort of MOU, you are always wondering, oh, now what is the new format that they're going to give us that we have to struggle to put information? And of course, compliance work is, sort of always offline. It's difficult to find, working in sort of a way where everything is sort of real time, everything is calculated for you, everything is available without having to go to all these different places to get your answers. So when it comes to 10BD, FCRA, ATG, they're all separate processes. There's no current single system that will help you figure all of this out together. So now how do we solve all these challenges, right? Like it's not very simple that, you say, okay, we want to solve all these challenges. Let's go and adopt like a system that will help us do all this. So what is really required to do?
Yeah, I know. And this is a question I think I do remember before 2019 when we had multiple, NGO clients that we were helping out. There was this one place that we felt that everybody wanted some solutions, which came in very strongly that we need something which helps with the boundary, with something that's connected across these multiple challenges that Ravi just mentioned, and keeping compliance intact, right? Like for us, we need to have something that can help an organization um, stay on in this system thinking and then move forward with finding a solution. So today, I think, given the 13 years of experience that we've had, we've understood how one should think of to even come up with the solution that we're looking for. And if you could, go to the roadmap that we call, I think it's important to first find a starting point. It's important that, yes, we've understood that we have a lot of these different challenges that we've spoken about. But how does one go about making a plan on what to focus on and how do we go about it? And one of the first things that we've seen with any organization is to really, write it down in whatever form that you're comfortable, that what typically your workflow is looking like, right from initiating, say, just example organization budget, which then goes into a pitch, which goes then to the donors, which if at all is formalized is some grant line items, and then we have some action spends, and then we have reporting. Just giving an example, but this was a roadmap on how one point that I'm thinking initiates to what is the end goal of it. Idea when you draw this workflow for yourself, you may understand that some things are working very smoothly, and there are few areas that we need to focus a bit more or provide some support because it's not going so smoothly. So second step, as we've identified, is to find out those big challenges, find out what it is truly that is causing a bottleneck for us to move forward. And for that, I think it's important to discuss with the entire team. So it should not be something that you're doing it in silo. I think it's extremely important, be it, say, the finance function, say, the program person or the leaders. It's great if we can sit down, brainstorm together, and understand what are those challenges that we're talking about. With identifying that and understanding what the next step looks like, for sure, figure out a way that we can budget this technology cost that we're talking about. And this is an area where we put it right in the middle also for us, because without that, getting the support and to justify why we're thinking so strongly about it is something that we will not be able to also propose it to the donors. So we need to first believe in what we truly need, put in that budget that we would like to, incur that cost to make, those solutions happen. And definitely bring awareness to the donors as well, that why is this important. So the first step is, we're not getting to the point whether they'll fund or not, but we're coming to the point where we're putting this in across our proposals and budgets as to what could this, technology budget look like. And after that would be, maybe you have 10 things listed down on what you want to work on. We always believe to take a first step forward, whatever it is, identify something that is easily, we can find solutions around it, find ways to automate it and work on it. For us, something small as receipting, right? Receipting is extremely important for an NGO. But as a system, it may not be so complicated to automate it. So why not we pick that up and see what is the best option that we can do to make this a very standard way of anybody coming in your organization, somebody new coming in an organization also is able to adopt to this particular system and move forward.
Yeah. I just want to add, like, how many of you feel that, the flow that Ritu is talking about is so similar to how we solve even our program challenges, right? When you think about a new field that you want to enter in, a new geography or a new pilot program, like this is so similar to how we would adopt these steps, right? Like we first think of a workflow, what's the biggest pain point the community has, budget for how do you want to solve this challenge, and then start small, right? Like we will not go attack everything in one go. We will start like what is the smallest effort that will bring the biggest change, right? Like, and that is what start small means. Like, example for small organizations that who are very heavily relying on crowdfunding, right? But one of the biggest challenges is how do I how do I send out all the receipts? How do I make sure I know, who all are my donors are, right? Like that's 80% of the problem. But by just introducing a system around receipting, 20% effort, 80% problem solved kind of a solution, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. It's just the perspective with which we live. One of the things that we've seen that sometimes gets missed out when we are in this journey is definitely a lot to do with capacity building and training. So maybe as a leader or as a function head, you are very sure and certain that you want to use, a certain technology or a system or any process, to make this happen smoothly. But it's so important to know that the people who are going to use it, they understand this value, they are trained for it, and there is a place of building their capacity. So this is also a part which ideally should be in the roadmap, that how do we make sure that everyone who's on board with us are also at the same level with whoever's been in the system for the longest time. And of course, without the internal controls that we're talking about right now, this will not go, successful. So we need to make sure that there is a strong boundary in which we are setting up our systems. We have certain SOPs, we have certain approaches that we're documenting and explaining to the people who are in charge of this to make this happen. So for us, this is how we've identified one should think of a technology roadmap to look into it.
I just want to quickly pause and ask, like, how many of you feel that, you have tried, but not tried this way? How many of you have tried, looking at adopting financial management softwares for your organization? And do you feel that this approach was lacking, or is there anything that you want to share, like, about your experience so far before we move forward and, like, talk about one more system that we have introduced? Anybody wants to share, your experience with technology for financial management, and if you succeeded, if you failed,
Any challenges in this aspect?
feel free to unmute and, you can directly talk. Otherwise, we will move forward to the next part of this.
Hi.
Hi.
So yeah, I'm Ramakrishna. I'm coming from
The challenges that struggle with, that whether you build something in-house or whether you get something from outside, because then and both have their pros and cons. We'll try to cover some of that later as well. But absolutely, very, very correctly said. We have Raghavendra who has said that we have enabled a ERP system for our skilling program covering some aspects of accounting. Great. That's that's good to hear. Let's move ahead to another concept.
Yeah, this is something very close to our heart, and this was a fundamental concept for ERP for impact as well. We like to call it the golden triangle for all the NGOs here. It's when you think of the three corners of this triangle, the first part of it is the budget. It's the budget that everybody is aware of how somebody is thinking, for the year or for the next 3 years as an organization. Where do you want to see yourself? How do you want to scale up? How do you want to introduce maybe new programs, new projects, or continue to scale it up? So keeping budget in mind and how we look at it, that's one part where you will have it in your system already. Most of us will have prepared it. We also like to call it maybe sometimes the annual work plan. We've seen that maybe each program will have a separate budget of its own. Sometimes it's all consolidated together, or maybe individually some teams are taking charge of their budget. In any form, this is one part of it that we're talking. The second side of it is grants. Grants are typically the ones we like to combine all the funding that the organization is receiving. And this is something that is a commitment made between the donors and the NGO. This is where the promise is being made that we have received a certain amount and that amount will be utilized in a certain way. And hence it's so important to track that. I think we all know that with the donor comes in maybe the responsibility of sharing the utilization certificates or at least some sort of information about telling them how the funds are being used. And once we receive the funds or once we have the budget in mind, comes the actuals in spending. This is the corner that we speak about all the expenses that an organization is incurring. This is what normally we see the income and expenditure account that has been maintained, annually, and statutory audits have been done for this. This is what we get normally from the financial statements, that what is the actual expense or the spend that the organization has done, which is very crucial for NGOs, right? Now, what's extremely important to understand is that if there is a place where we can connect all three, right, interconnect all three, there's something really beautiful coming out of it, which in our day-to-day operations, we do come across it, but we don't think of it in that perspective. So when I look at the first and the second corner, which we spoke about, the budget and the grant, I have, say, a budget of 1 lakh rupees, and so far I've received the grant of 18,000. When I look at the difference, what I get is the funding gap that I still need to raise 20,000 to reach to my budget. So if I track my budget well, if I track my grants well, I will get an answer for what the funding gap is looking like. Now we look at budget and actuals. This is extremely important internally for the organization to know that how well have we performed or how much are we close to what our vision or mission was for that particular year. So when we compare the two, when we see what the budget was for the year, when we see what the actuals have been there for the year, and whatever the differences that we can see is what typically a report like budget versus actuals look like. That we know that we aimed for something, either we've achieved that, or we've underachieved that in whatever ways. I think that measurement and that information goes a long way in understanding that what was it that was estimated in a different way when we started. And now when we look at the facts, what is different about it? And use that learning, to create your budgets for the years moving on. And the third part of it is grants and actuals. So you receive the money from the donors, you have made a plan to spend, that money. And when we find the difference in the two, what the difference of the grant and the actuals is typically what we see, that how much is left to utilize or have we overutilized. And this is the reporting that we get, what we have to report as a utilization certificate as well. So if you're going to see if these three aspects of the NGO sector, if you're able to, in a very, I would say, strong, systematic way, track this, I think this helps a lot tremendously to bring in transparency, to bring in trust, to bring in, that clear factor that this is how the organization is functioning. And I think it speaks a lot on those reporting, timelines and how we're looking at it.
Yeah, like I think we all discussed, right? Like one of the biggest challenges is finding out how much money is unutilized, by when it has to be utilized. And we always wish that was available at a click of a button. So a system that you're looking at should always be able to give you that immediately, right?
Yeah.
And also be able to generate those utilization reports immediately as well. Does anybody, here want to unmute and share what they think about this, and if you understood it, not understood it, any aspect of this that you want to discuss? It would be great to, sort of understand how many of you think it's something you already use, it's, something you already use, but you never thought about it like this. What do you think about, the golden triangle, the way we have coined it, and, how you think of it?
Maybe we can rephrase in a manner where it's yes or no. That
Yeah.
might just help.
Yeah, like maybe type one if you understood what a golden triangle means. You can type one in the chat box, or or tell us if there's something you want us to go over again. Yeah, thanks Manju, thanks Vishwanathan, Ashok, Saurabh, Rajshri, Doc.
Great.
Yes, this is why we are, focusing on this, is because just like you have a lot of fundamentals, this will become one of the fundamentals when you're trying to solve your problem. How do you need to interconnect everything? How will the solution come out for you as an organization? This is very important to understand.
Thank you for the engagement.
Hi Ritu. Hi Ravi. I had a question actually.
Yeah.
I'm just Kirat from Anthill Creations Foundation. I think something that I wanted to really bring out as a challenge was that when we look at utilization certificates, right? Or for instance, different projects. So for different projects, we'll have different frequency for same as well. Say for some, we'll just need to give an annual utilization. Um, Owing to a lot of factors like the timeline of the project, the scale of the project, and for some it has to be like a quarterly FUC that you have to give, and an annual UC towards the end of it. Something that I also want to understand is I think one of the challenge while sort of looking at utilization certificate is also as we sort of go about the year with all of these projects. We have a lot of projects come in, let's just say around Q3 or Q4. So, for instance, there is a fixed cost that we've accounted for to whatever our heads are, right? And let's just say we actively want to incorporate the budget for technology adoption. Um, I think I want to understand how do we go about that, because let's just say towards the end in our budget, so to say, we have accounted for that, and you know um, the inflow of projects is not always um, how do I put it at a regular interval. So in that sense, how do we safeguard from either overutilization or underutilization in that sense of it?
Yeah, so if we are understanding your question correctly, it's like you have a budget that you have thought through it. However, the funding that is coming in may not be at a regular interval. It could be heavy on Q3 and Q4. So how do we go about that? Is that summing it up?
Correct. And also, I think the split in that project segment, right? Because different projects will have different budgets, and fixed cost will be part of, not just one project as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm trying to understand is how do we create a system where we can visualize all of it together, so
Yeah.
it sort of streamlines the same.
Yeah, I think on top of it, there are two things that we normally like to understand and look into further if some situation like this is coming in. One, if we if we understand the trend, right? If you are focusing on donors who are probably say CSRs or the donors who have shown a trend that they give during Q3 and Q4, I think it's important to record or understand that trend that we're looking at it. Of course, our best efforts would be to explain to the donors that if we can get staggered payments or something that even a small part of it is getting released earlier. I understand the practical situation sometimes that's not feasible. And but when you understand that if there is a trend that's coming in or a pattern that's coming in, this is where when you look at a budget or definition also, we look at program, support, contingency, and reserves. The reason I'm picking this up is that many a times having reserves or contingency is something where you help your organization ensure that that recurring cost is still being incurred. You have a certain amount that you thought for it that this situation will come in. And if supposingly do get the money and you're able to explain to the donor that we have used, our unrestricted amount for this period, and now we're going to, use the funds that are going to get there and put into utilization for that and get our unrestricted amounts back into like replenish it. We've seen that it's doable and it's possible, but it's again one of the solutions that we feel that we need to understand certain patterns and trends and maybe relook at a donor mix, relook at how heavy reliance it is on that Q3, Q4, and juggle a bit into that. That's one part of it. As far as the allocation is concerned as well, we truly believe that keep it to factual as it is, that yes, you will have to incur. You may assign those allocations right now as unallocated so that in the future that money is going to come in and you will be able to have that space. So do not allocate it in the beginning itself to some other donors that are coming in, for something that that this person will fund me in Q3, Q4. So hence it requires a lot of planning. I'm just giving you certain things that, with our clients, how we've maneuvered this situation, and we have managed to make a plan, maybe a yearly plan, and share that with the donors as well. Be as transparent as possible. Ravi, anything specific?
Yeah, I would, Jaskirat, I would encourage you to check out the true cost computation and communication guidelines. We had published this in sort of last year, August of 2024. I have just written the name as well. I'll try to send a link at the end of, sort of our session, if I can. Or Jay, if you can, sort of get the link and post it in the chat box, maybe, people can also benefit from it. This should help you solve the challenge that you're talking about, further, like to what Ritu is saying. It'll definitely help you from there.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I think, Ritu, that second part of just being clear with the unrestricted fund and then channeling that, I think that does help. Yeah. If I have a follow-up question, I'll mail it to you. Thank you.
Sure.
I think from there, let's, look at what are the features that you should be looking at when it comes to a technology solution and how they can help you choose a solution that you need best for yourself. So solutions that you would ideally look for are one that you have real-time dashboards, actionable insights, not just reports, right? Like reports are something that you will maybe create, when you have the need to look at like what happened in the quarter, what is the utilization, etc. But real-time dashboards will help you look at actionable insights that, how many approvals are pending, how much money is left to be received from donors, how much money is left to be paid out. All of these kind of questions will help you plan better, not just reports, right? Like there's two different parts of it. Look at a solution that is compliance centric. And we all know that today for the nonprofit sector, how FCRA, income tax, have constantly rules that are evolving. If your system is not made to be flexible with compliance, it is possible that you may run into walls every time a change is made and your system is not able to adopt. You will find yourself, in very challenging waters. A simple example is, 10BD, 10BE. If your system is not able to help you with that, it's going to become very difficult to be able to scale. Look for a system that also helps you with grant management, so you can track your utilization live. Give access to your donors as well, right? Like from a transparency perspective, building rhythm with them, saying that, we're happy to share this with you. It's not like we want to keep this opaque wall that we will only share the utilization certificate. Yes, you will share that, but also the confidence you will build with the donor, saying, we can give you access to our system for anything that, you want to review in the middle of the grant, or sort of whenever you want to have a look at it. Look for a system that also has budget management. Budget management means you can sort of put your annual work plans and budgets on it. You can see how your utilization is happening, how those are approved as you move forward, and sort of have also user access control. Like, we don't want to always share um, all of this information with everybody in the organization. So it's very important that you look for a solution that can allow everybody in the organization to be on it, but also create, sort of demarcation on what information is available and accessible to who. Seamless accounting integration, right? Like, you want a system that helps you build a layer on top of accounts. So if you're using Tally, Zoho, Excel, whatever you're using, it integrates so that your accounting, your bookkeeping can be purely, sort of untouched. And whatever financial management that you need to do, right? Like grants, utilization, budget versus actuals, expense approvals, receipting, all of that, that today is a challenge on the current accounting systems. How do you sort of build that into your technology solution? Look for a system that will also help you with donor and donations management. So being able to understand what is the database of your donors, when did they give, being able to send them 10 VDs, send them receipts, keep track of, any funds that they had committed but have still not come to you, things like that. Look for a system that has expense management, and that's so important, right? Like something that will take care of, all your registered vendors, understand who your payees are, so that there's no double payment happening of invoices. Track all your reimbursements, approvals, allocations. So many times we struggle, right? Like, we have this expense, but we don't know where this needs to be paid out from, which grant, which budget line item will it go into, and even flexibility. Like, supposing today you parked it under X, but later you realize that, this donor is not allowing this expense. You should be able to then, go ahead and decide that, okay, I need to fund this from my own, general reserves, or, there's another donor who's willing to fund it, and things like that.
I think I want to give an example of this expense management, specifically approval part of it. Today, I think if you're dependent on a system and same expense, or I would say same budget that's been going on for months and months, and if there's a change in the personnel, right, who's managing it or who's handling it, it's typically right now, most of the times you've seen that it's on emails, and there are lots of approvals and lots of conditions and terms that have been discussing, for an individual, right? But now imagine if the whole thing was on a system where even if somebody was with you and maybe after a few months are, moved on and is not in the system, you can still have a place of record, so that whoever is coming in that person's place, they have something to catch up to. They are aware of what has been happening, what kind of approvals have been given before. So instead of relying on something that is at an individual level, this suddenly at a system level. So, and with this concept, I like, even with audit logs, it's not only a requirement now from a compliance perspective that you need to, have an information where what changes have been coming in, especially from accounting perspective. But it goes a long way where even if you're showcasing to a donor what has happened, or internally in your team who had given the approval, what levels were involved into it. It goes, the integrity of the organization is very clear and out there. So you don't have, because everybody is, the intention is to do the great work that we are planning to do. How do we, bring in, that intention into the system as well. So find systems that will have this particular aspect as well.
Mhm. I think the other key important feature in a technology solution to look for is backups and scale, right? Like how many number of users can you add? What size of data can you store on it? What are the data protection policies and measures that are in place? From lots of different angles, we now have the DPDP Act, Data Protection and Privacy Act, which is now coming. We have so many GDPR laws when you're dealing with FCRA donor related information and so on. Also in terms of backups, right? Like you're required from a law perspective to store information for 6 years, 8 years, and so on. Under different laws to be able to do this. And lastly, look for a feature, in a tech solution which is user friendly and has a support team. So you want something that is easy to use and implement, and has a reasonable technology or tech support which is available, right? Like it shouldn't be that you've bought it and then you're stuck, or you subscribe to it and then you're stuck. You want somebody behind it where if you need any help, technical support, adoption, or implementation related information, you have somebody available to help you
I
out.
think I do want to bring in that, given like the programmatic side of it, we know we will have a lot of on the ground, on the field, users as well. We will have a place where some of us may not be so technically advanced in using a system. So keep the the user friendliness also in perspective. So understand as an organization. Truly for everybody in the system to use it, what is it required? It could be heavy on the number of users, example. It could be that if you have, some programs which will have a lot of field work, a lot of, volunteers, make sure that the system is able to, take that information as well and help them also come on the system. And something that's the change management is not too difficult, because if it is too complicated, I think only few people in the organization may be able to really leverage it, use it. We want to make sure that it is something that's easy to follow, easy to use, easy to like provide trainings. And of course, as Ravi mentioned about the tech support, so we are not handicapped that we don't know how to move forward from it. But these are the few things that we normally help with every client when they're looking for an automation or a technology support. What are the few things that one should keep in mind, especially from a financial management perspective? Yeah.
I think now that we've spoken about features, I think one important thing to address is the challenges, that you will, or most organizations that even we work with, right, like face when it comes to technology adoption. The first and foremost one being, having tight budgets. Often tech is seen as an overhead, like, ye to overhead hai, ya support cost hai, ya admin cost hai. But the idea is that, how you put it in your proposals, how you create room for it, like Jaskirat was talking about, like how this is so central or important for implementation, um, how this is, going to affect or increase the scale of your program, how it is going to help decision making. Like these are the things you need to be able to champion, saying why this is so important to.
Yeah, I think many times it's about first internally understanding the value that this technology is going to bring in. Because once we understand that, I think automatically our conversations with the donors and to whoever's funding, they will also, get the feel of it, that what are we trying to really, budget for this, right? Why a certain cost that we feel is extremely important for it. So spend some time in understanding how you want to imagine this technology cost that we're talking about. How do you see it first, and then maybe put it across in the proposals.
And very funnily, like, we were just talking to somebody yesterday, and they were saying, oh, my board itself is saying that, technology cost is not required. But I think it's very important that, people start seeing this as an enabler rather than, a roadblock to
Or just a
really
cost.
scaling. Yeah, or just a cost, really.
Yeah.
The other part is, yes, Ramakrishna, we do have a system. We will talk about it after this slide. Lower IT, sort of low IT capacity in teams. Like I think, and this is a fact, and all of us will agree that technology adoption in the sector itself as a whole, there is such a big challenge. And it's very important that one, the sector has a shift which is slowly happening, but while this shift happens, we continue to build the capacity within our teams, because without that, we will always face a challenge, no matter how good a solution is. You will never be able to implement it if you do not invest in building the capacity of your team.
That's going to use this.
Yeah, it's going to use the system. The next one is cultural resistance to change, right? Like so many times, you may be willing to invest in their capacity, you may be willing to fund it, but if your team itself is like, oh, this is too much work, this is too many new things, which often happens, right? Like anything new comes in, we're like, no, I don't want to do this. There's a classic problem called change management that we often, deal with, and it's going to be there, but we have to figure out a way to.
Yeah. We've
solve
understood
this.
one of the ways to really figure out is that when we sit with the people who feel this is extremely difficult, I think walk them through as to right now, currently what they're doing, and also walk with them that, if you were to change this, what is the impact of it? And specifically talk about efficiency, talk about the confidence that somebody gets in the numbers that you're presenting, or talk about literally the time that's been saved. So we've understood that we need to be a little bit part of the journey to really know that where are they struggling or where are they resisting, and then help them to see, what lies ahead. Maybe that little change, which could be uncomfortable for some time, but eventually it will help them be far more efficient and productive as compared to before.
The other challenge we often see is fragmented donor compliance requirements. So, oftentimes you will feel that, oh, this will not fit into what our donor needs, this will not fit into how our UC should be. And that becomes sort of a resistance point. But I think it's very important to step back and see that that's the end result, right? That's the end last thing. But in between, there are so many things, like there's the budget, there's money coming in, there's money being spent, there's decision making, there's documents, there's approvals, there's so many things that happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does all of this get affected? Like, let's not lose sight of the bigger thing that we're trying to achieve, not just the end outcome that, is this donor report
Going to be
going to match or not, right? Like, and this donor is probably going to be with you for 3 years, 5 years, but what about after that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think we spoke about the roadmap. It's extremely important to have that clarity, because when we don't have the clarity, it's difficult to convince anyone to help them understand why we want to adopt it, or for yourself, right? So these were the few things that we felt it's important to outlay out here, that yes, the technology would be great, but while adopting, keep these challenges in mind and work on it consistently and regularly while we are making those changes.
And I think now the moment Ramakrishna definitely has been waiting for. Oh, no, this is not that moment. I think before we go into like sort of, let me quickly show the slide. So we have a system which is called ERP for Impact, and it has all these features. We'll come back to that. But how do you finalize or choose a solution, really, right? So when you're looking at a system, and I'll go through this very quickly. One is you look for functionality over looks, right? Like oftentimes we get stuck, "Arey, acha nahi dikh raha," but don't do that to your your own selection process. If something works but doesn't look nice, that can be fixed later. But if something looks good and doesn't work, it is of no use to you. Automate high risk and high effort processes first. So if you feel that the system itself is too much to implement immediately, start, like we said, start small. Look at high risk, high effort processes, like could be receipting itself, could be very high effort for some organizations. Start with that. Could be pay management, could be donor management, approvals, anything of that sort.
Yeah.
Enable transparency and decision making as a factor, right? Like when you're choosing a solution, make sure that the solution is offering this. A lot of times you would want to choose a system that only offers flexibility. But in the long run, you will realize that if you cannot bank on that system, to be transparent with your donors, you will struggle because the whole idea about our sector, right, is that people give you money because of trust, because of transparency that you build. So it has to be a key factor in decision making. Prioritize effort saved and duplication removed and fight the resistance to change. So one of the solutions that we spoke about, like challenges that we spoke about, right? Or like Ritu said, show them, what is the effort saved and what will be the duplication that's removed.
Yeah.
Remember that there is no perfect product. We ourselves have not come across a perfect product. We will not say our product is also perfect. If you as an organization feel that the solution you are looking for fits 80% of what you're trying to solve, go for it. It cannot get better than this unless you're a perfectionist, and that's the enemy of success. You will never be able to succeed in implementing and getting the results that you.
Yeah. The idea is to look at the big picture. If as like 80% is something that is doing and helping you out, then
Yeah.
it's great to move forward rather than wait for something else to fill in for that.
Yeah.
Because by then there will be something else that will be missed out.
Yeah. And slowly you can get to, bridging that gap from 80 to 100, 80 to 90, whatever that is. And you'll see that that effort is much lower than trying to find a product which fits everything, right? The other bit is make sure that the solution has a future roadmap and is not like, okay, this is what it is and we stop here. But make sure that, they have a roadmap that helps you as an organization, helps and is made from a sector perspective. Make sure that it's a decentralized system. Make sure that this system enables you to work from everywhere, wherever you are, whether it's on the field, different offices, and not just centrally located in one place. Make sure that the system is online, accessible, and has backups that is available for you. So now moving on to the next slide, talking about the product that we have built called ERP for Impact. What currently the product has and all the features that it does have is listed here. We have donor management, grant management, budget and expense management, vendor management, receipting. It syncs with Tally. It syncs with sort of giving you information in Excel. It has beautifully designed dashboards that help you make decisions and and so on. So since we have time, we will sort of get into showing you a very quick demo of the product. I'm going to stop sharing my screen very quickly. But at this point, while I sort of do this, if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question or has something to share, please do so.
We will be sharing the presentation later.
Okay, great. So I hope you can all see the screen, and sort of this is what the live system looks like. This is erpforimpact.com. Jay, if you could just sort of type that out so that in the future when people need to, they can go on to it. That's not something you need to do right now. This is after you log into the system, sort of what you will sort of see over here. So there is a website that you will go to and you will log in. You will have your login user ID, password, and so on. There are small setups that you will do as an organization once you are onboarded, and then sort of move forward from there. But what I really wanted to show you guys, is something that we all struggle with, which is called sort of grants, right? And grant management. So our system has this beautiful way in which you can put down all the MOUs or all the big grants, small grants that you have received from donors and are tracking it, right? So, currently, let's say our system has about 88 grants that are active. And you can see 10 of those here. And now supposing I want to search for a grant from, say, Tata Electrical. So, you will sort of just write that here. And all the grants which have the word Tata in it will show up. And then I realize there are too many. I can also search based on the grant ID. So let's say I go to this grant called 0034, which I have received for nutritional support is from a non-FCRA donor. The total grant side is 30 lakhs, of which only 17 lakhs has been received. So you can see how much information the system is already offering and is live, right? I can see that of the 17 lakhs, sorry, of the 30 lakhs, how much has been utilized and so on. And there is a way in which you can see this even better, right? Like what is the grant period? What is the sort of the grant for? What are all the grant line items? So, there's a line item for accommodation, which is 14 lakhs, which is broken down into how many centers this is for, what is the utilities they are supporting, how many salaries are they funding, what are those salaries, what is the project management cost, is there a sub grant that is happening within this, and so on. And as you can see, these figures that are over here, right? These are all the budgets, or rather all the grant amounts that the donor has approved. And right next to it, you can see what is the utilization. So 20% of this is utilized, 80% of this is utilized, 25% of this is utilized. So immediately, like this is information so many of us struggle with and do not have access to, right? And this makes it look so beautiful that you can see, okay, I need to spend money here. Okay, this is overutilized here, or like so much is pending for approval, so much needs to be approved. So we will get into all of that later, but immediately this, and then you can also see what are all the tranches that you had discussed with the donor. When are they going to come in? Against that, how much have you received? How much is now overdue? Right? Supposing this was supposed to come in, April of 23. But so far, that money has not come in and 13 lakhs is outstanding, right? This information, so many times we struggle figuring out, sort of when this is going to come in. You can also track what are all the reports that you need to give out to donors, what are the dates for that. And you can set up reminders in the system for this as well. Now, I will invite you to also, sort of look at this system as something which is not just for the finance and the accounts team, but something that the whole organization can use. So even your fundraising team, your leadership, your trustees, your program people, everybody will be able to come onto this system and make decisions. So the program person saying, okay, do I have budget left in sort of nutrition for the welfare center? Yes, I have the money. Let me go ahead and spend it. Right? That's how the system will help decision making. You can see audit logs, when changes were made to the grant, who made the change, and so on. You can see the attachments. So when you click on them, your grant agreements can be stored, your corpus letters, anything that sort of is valuable to the grant. So all of this makes it sort of institutional knowledge and not sitting in one inbox or one Google Drive somewhere, but it's available for the organization as a whole as a repository to, sort of access.
Bring in that, because with the number of people and the number of, designations and the tasks that everybody has, we also have a system where, depending on who the members are for a particular grant, or who's managing it, it could be certain fundraising people or it could be certain program people. You can select those members and only they will be able to see this visibility. So sometimes it's not necessary that everything you would want to, give it out for everyone, because the knowledge then that information is not helping. We would rather than restrict it to the people who are supposed to see it and manage it and make use of this. So there is a lot of setup that is available. It's up to you as an organization how you want to, build this, what levels you want to get into approvals, what levels of people you want to get involved. That all modules are available. And maybe you can just show like the different setups that we have for salary and all.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think before I go into that, let's try to add one donation here, right? Like, so you can see that the system actually works live. So you can see 17 lakhs has been received, of which, 10 lakh 50,000 has been utilized. And you can see here, as we said, 13 lakhs is still pending to be received. Let's go ahead and add a quick donation from this, right? So you have a quick link here where you can sort of just go here and say, add a new donation that has come for this particular grant. So you can already see the donor name is populated. all you need to do is say, when the donation came, is it going to be an ATG receipt or not? If there's a location that you're going to use it for. And again, the purpose is automatically here and not editable because this is tagged to a grant. Now, supposing if this was an open receipt which came from an individual, you would have the ability to change this and say education or say, whatever you sort of need to do that. Now, supposing we received another donation of 3 lakhs, today, and we sort of add that, you also have the ability to add accounting information. So in your tally, what ledger is this going to go into? Which donor is this going to go into? If there's a cost center for it, then what is it going to be? And you save that information. How did you receive this? Was it a check, etc.? Are there notes that you want to put on the receipt? Are there any, documents you want to upload with this? And you simply create the donation. As soon as you create it, this is added to the system as quickly as that. And you have your ATG receipt that is ready. Right? So you can just go here and say you want to print the receipt or you want to send it. You can even send it to the donor via email or WhatsApp over here. You can view the receipt from here, and you'll have a very quick, amazing. Okay, you can't see this, but let me. So you'll have like a very quick letter and then a receipt that will come on it with a signed stamp, so on, that you can send to the donor immediately. So this was about the receipt. And now when you go back to the grant, right? Like if I just very quickly search for it, you will see that the amount received has changed, right? So from 17 lakhs, it has now become 20 lakhs, and this 13 lakhs has now become 10 lakhs. So you can see the system is live. Wherever you are, you can send the receipt to the donor, you can see the information live, and sort of use it from that perspective. Now from here, let's, very quickly go into the utilization piece. So as you can see, you can see that, okay, accommodation, what are my expenses? Nutrition, what are my expenses? Salary, what are my expenses? And so on. And you can see over here that, there seems to be an error here because instead of having 70,000, there's supposed to be there, it seems like there's 12 lakh 70,000 here. So you can actually go into this, you click on view, and all the expenses that are just tagged to that particular line item, to that particular grant show up over here, right? So immediately, all the expenses that are tagged, why are they here? Who are they going to be paid to? What is the amount? And so on. And, you can sort of go ahead and see what all of those expenses are. You want to approve them, you want to reject them, move them to another particular, sort of information, you can do that as well. If I remove this filter and just keep the grant filter, you will see every expense for that grant. So many times the auditor will come and say, I want a list of all the expenses that have happened in this grant. And boom, you have that here, right? You don't have to struggle to go back to your ledgers, figure that out, and so on. Right. So you can very quickly just, also go into this particular one and see what it is. You go into this expense. You can see that, this one is pending approval. It has all these attachments here. Who is the vendor over here? Who it has been tagged to. This currently, it's also giving us a flag that, this expense exceeds, this particular line item, this particular expense. Again, even in this budget is being, sort of exceeded. You can tag expenses to multiple grants also at the same time, which means that without double utilizing, right? So the 20,000 or the 24,000 can be split between different donors. Like so many times we have this when there is one person who's working on 2 different projects or is being funded from 2 different donors. You can allocate those salaries to different donors as well. Yeah, let me very quickly also show you another
There's a question,
example.
can we export this data into Excel or Google Sheets, Sure.
Yeah, so there is an export button here right away, right? So you can export all of this into CSV, Excel, do any sort of analysis you want to as well. That's easily available here. There are already a lot of reports that are available, when you go into the dashboard, and we look at that very quickly, after this as well. So over here, you have different kinds of expenses that are possible, right? So you have payroll expenses, and why this is done so that everybody in the organization is not looking at every expense. You can segment or sort of branch out the payroll and make sure that only say that
Sure.
so the HR or the trustees or the accounts team has access to it and nobody else, right? Even no matter who's coming into the system, then they will not be able to see the payroll expenses. Same thing with petty cash. Like, what we also have is different layers of approvals. uh, you know, so example, for petty cash, there are no approvals that are required. You want to set an amount limit of say 1,000 rupees. You can do that. You can set that any payroll expense that is created can just come into the system without any approval. When you talk about same thing about other expenses, you can set that system saying above 50,000 you need one approver, above 1 lakh you need two approvers. In that way, and that can also be added into the system in that way.
Okay, there's
There's another question. Yeah. Every expense has a purchase request, PO, vendor, payment, and inventory. Does this system provide the solution for these? Raghavendra, we can discuss this a little later, but yeah, I think 3 or 4 out of this is sort of here. Maybe inventory is not something that regularly nonprofits deal with, so that's not something that is currently.
Yeah, sure, we can figure out what is it.
Yeah. Yeah, Doc, you have a question.
Ritu and Ravi, we are at 5:15. If we can maybe take questions and close the presentation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just one last thing that I think we wanted to show, and then I think we can sort of close that. That'll take 2 minutes. This is a dashboard front. So you can go to donation analysis and you can see sort of, for any particular period, how donations have come in, how many of those are, from sort of which is the largest donor, which is the biggest purpose you've received a donation for. Even in terms of sort of FC, non-FC, what that split looks like, how many of those are, ATG, how many PANs are available, right? Today with 10 BD, there's such a big struggle that all of us have. So you can very easily just click on this, get that information, reach out to that donor and, sort of do that action. So this is what we were talking about dashboards, right? This is actionable data. It's not a report, it's actionable data that will have you with all of this.
Great. Okay. We can share the details of if anybody's interested then for a demo.
Yeah.
On this.
So you can all sort of go onto ERP for Impact, leave a request for a demo as well. And we'll be happy to sort of go ahead and schedule a demo for any of you in that sense.
Also,
Yes, all this information, Ravi Kumar, can be transferred to ERP. We have a reconciliation system, we have a mapping system that helps you move information from here to there as well. And very quickly, there is also a discount that is available. We will talk about the pricing. I'm sure that's a question that will come up. We have a 25% discount for all Bhumi associated NGOs that are here today. That we can sort of offer. I will stop sharing my screen and sort of open the floor for questions. If there are any.